What is good, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. The movie I'm reviewing today is currently available for streaming on Hulu with the Showtime add-on. There will not be any spoilers in this video. Moonlight is directed by Barry Jenkins and stars Mahershala Ali and Janelle Monae. It is a coming-of-age story. It's told in a very easy-to-follow three-act structure of adolescence, teenage years, and adulthood. The coming-of-age story we're being told of is that of Chiron. In the three-act structure, his adolescence years are titled Little, his teenage years are titled Chiron, and his adult years are titled Black. In the stage of Little, he is finding out about himself. He is finding out that he cannot really, there's not too many people in the world he can trust. He's going through the stages of bullying, finding out himself, his sexuality early on in his life, and he does not have any father in his life. His mother is falling slowly into the drug epidemic that's going on and where he lives in Miami. Ironically, the only male figure in his life and really the only solid male role model he has is a drug dealer in Miami named Juan, who takes him under his wing. Not so much as to train him to be a drug dealer, but just to give him a solid home life and someone who he can go towards advice. Juan is probably the most important figure in Chiron's life that's going to dictate his decisions throughout the rest of his life. He's learning about himself sexually, he's learning about himself, his personality, and who he's to become. He's learning about people, and he's learning also that early on that he has to take care of himself because, again, he doesn't have any father in his life. His only role model is a drug dealer, and his mom is becoming a drug addict, so she's falling further and further away, so he has to take care of himself. There's a very good scene in this section of the story, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I have his favorite scene from every section. My favorite scene from this section is Chiron comes home, he's all alone, and he makes himself a warm bath. He's seeing that he needs to, I see this as two things. One, he just needs to find comfort in the little things of life, and he's also learning that he has to take care of himself. Now, despite this betrayal that goes on, he still is a very loving and caring person. Now, going into his teenage years, everything just gets amplified. The bullying, the betrayal, his learning about himself sexually, and everything is just amplified to a next degree where he's going through so many emotions. His mother's addiction has been taken to the next level. He's learning about death, about loss, and again, personifying itself in the fact that he can only trust himself. He has to look out for himself. He has very few people in his life that he can trust, and the ones he thinks he can trust may end up turning on him, so he turns inward. My favorite scene in this one is also, well, not the last one didn't take place at the end, but takes place toward the end of this section, and where his angst in finding this out. You're a teenager and nobody's there for you. The school isn't there for you. Your mother isn't there for you. You've never had a father, and you have no one, and it just is a boiling pot. And it just explodes all at once. And it all leads itself to the final act of where he's an adult, where all this betrayal, this lack of being able to trust anyone in your life, and it has turned itself him to being a strong male. Now, it's a very comforting to see it when he's an adult, because you're like, you know what, he could have just easily shriveled up and just gave up. But he said, you know what, I have to live, I have to be alive, but he has to take care of himself. And again, despite all this, he's a very trusting and loving person. He still visits his mother, who's now in a treatment center, but he's built himself up physically. He is ripped. So in the first two acts of the movie, he's more of a little scrawny kid. In this third act, he's built himself up because he realizes he has to at least put on a persona where people aren't going to try to take advantage of him and use him. He doesn't reveal too much about him. He never does that really throughout the whole movie. There's not a lot of dialogue spoken by Chiron. There is, but not too much. For a main character, it's very dialed back. And in the third act, you could tell he doesn't want to reveal anything about himself. He doesn't trust anyone. And despite this macho alpha facade that he's built up, in the climax of the movie, we realize there's just that little boy is still in there. I wouldn't want to ruin the end. The end is so well done of this movie. This is I don't rank movies on this channel. You guys know that. I just typically recommend. This is one I absolutely recommend. But if I'm ranking, it's an absolute 5-star movie. It's one of the best movies of the 21st century. It's easily top 5 of the last 10 years. I do believe it won an Oscar. I don't really watch the Oscars, but I'm pretty sure it did. Absolutely deserving of it. Mahershala Ali, my apologies, won Best Supporting Actor. Well deserved. One of the best character performances for a supporting actor. He's not in the movie for too long. He's in that first act of the movie, and it's just he just does such a good job at playing the father figure to Chiron. And the movie, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of dialogue spoken. One of my favorite directors is Stanley Kubrick. And he said, I don't know who he said it to, but I heard it in an interview or something, where he said, this is cinema, the face. This is where it is. Everything is right here. And the eyes tell it all. And the movie focuses on character's face, primarily Chiron, obviously, but also the people he interacts with, his friends, his mother, Juan, and Juan's girlfriend, who is a great and integral character in the movie. And he does a great, you can see everything through the emotions. You can see that those years of pain and hatred, and even those moments of triumph, you can see it when he does have a moment of happiness. And it is shot so beautifully. It takes place in Miami, and the sunlight is used very well. The beach scenes, how he plays the moonlight literally, and how they use the moonlight for the lighting in the movie. And it just how it shows how those things that happened to you when you were a kid, how much they affect you when you're an adult and you're a man. And it's so heavy, because I can totally relate to this. Things that happened to me when I was a kid, I take with me now. How people treated me. College was a big time for me in my life, where I learned that I was I was an only child. I had my friends, but when I got to college, I realized, a lot of people are liars and a lot of people are fake, and you have to kind of trust yourself. So that's when I really tapped into my introvertness. Chiron is absolutely an introvert. He's tapped into himself because he knows he's the only one he can trust. He can't, all these other people are kind of, they're fickle. He doesn't know he can trust them. He loves his mother, but she has her problems. But he's still a very kind and gentle and loving soul despite all. It's such a beautiful story. All the acting is good. All the technical movie stuff is good. I mentioned in the second act of the movie, where he's a teenager, when he's a Chiron, there's a scene where, like I said, that pot is boiling, and that scene is so well done. The way it follows him until there's the pot boils over. I wouldn't want to ruin the scene, and I wouldn't want to ruin the end. But in life, we kind of have to put on this persona for the world to protect ourselves, when inside we're still going through it. We're still carrying a lot of that emotional baggage from life. And this kid's had a tough life. He had to learn a lot of tough lessons early on in his life, and he has done very well for himself, actually. He's learned those lessons, and he says, you know what, I have to look out for himself. He's built himself so physically. I say he's a scrawny kid, and then he's stacked, because he has to protect himself. He has to physically protect himself, and he also has to put on the persona that he's a strong man, when inside he's really just a little kid. The music it's a very orchestra style music, so a lot of strings, a lot of piano laid throughout it very subtly, very elegantly. It matches the emotion of the movie. The scenes at the beach are my favorite. It's just shot so beautifully. It's a very emotional movie. I'll tell a little story about when I first saw it. So, not my last ex, but my ex before. We lived in Arizona together, and we had to lease an apartment. It was coming to an end. We had broken up, but we still had a month and change left on that lease before we were moving back east. So not comfortable time. There was a night where I was like, I need to get out. I need to leave. So there was this art house movie theater there, one of my favorite movie theaters ever, called The Loft. and I drove there. Moonlight had been playing there consistently for like 2 months. I think even longer than that. And I was like, all right, let me watch this movie. It was like 11:30 at night. I bought my ticket. I was the only one there. It was in like the top part of the theater. It has like, if anyone's ever been to an art house theater, they have like couches and stuff like that. It's not your traditional movie theater. So I sit down in the back of the theater on this couch, and I'm immersed by this story, and it amplified cinema to me in another way. I've always loved movies, and but that was just showed me it was a beautiful coming of age movie. So that's why I had to talk about it. I mostly want to do your guys' recommendations, but I do want to throw in some of my favorites, and Moonlight is absolutely one of my favorites. When I rewatched it for this review, it even got those emotions going. It holds up extremely well. It's only a few years old, so to say it holds up isn't really saying a lot, but one of those few movies where I'm glad it won an Oscar. Well deserving. I can't recommend it enough. This is a great movie to show for kids, someone who's kind of in that period of their life where they need to have that conversation with the adult, where they're going through those transitions in life. This would be a great movie to watch. It's a very humbling movie. All the acting is really good. Barry Jenkins does a great job. Hats off to him. Again, a 5-star movie. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your time. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, great rest of your Sunday and weekend. I'll see y'all soon. Take care and be well.